Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 3 o'clock session. Just to make sure you're in the right place, this is Leadership of a Champions program with Dr. Monica Chavez. My name is Matt Lingard, and I'm chairing this session. I'll say very little except to welcome you and to make sure Monica keeps on time, and then to share your questions. So please do post your questions in the comments as we go through the session, and I'll keep an eye out for those, and there'll be 5 minutes questions at the end of Monica's talk, so keep them coming. And without further ado, I will hand over to Monica.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. It's been a very exciting day. So I'm thrilled to be presenting about leadership of a champions program I led a couple of years ago, 2019. So I'm going to give you a little bit the context, but before I do that, I want to show you what my aim is today. So first of all, as promised in the abstract, I will explain. You will be able to understand the principles embedded in the champions program. It's such a broad concept to say, oh, it's a champions program. And when I was given this task, I was just told a champions program, and I had to develop a model or a kind of theoretical underpinnings. I won't go into detail into that, but the resource I'm going to share will explain in detail these principles. There was a roadmap, and which I'm going to share and cover very briefly. Perhaps I won't have time to explain all of the activities, but I can give you the broad elements of what made the champions program, what kind of activities. Impact, nationally, institutionally, and internationally, I was blessed. I'm very grateful that I was able to share this on an international scale with the project. So I'm going to explain how and what came out of that. What were the outcomes? And I think maybe you would be interested in the access to the. It's a video resource, and you can further explore everything I'm going to share with you today. Is in that. It's an open resource using Canvas. So first of all, let me give you the context and why I did this champions program. It was 2019. It was the rollout of Microsoft Teams, and I was approached by the education manager for Microsoft Teams, and we collaborated in creating this champions program. So I was new to the organization, and I was given a leadership responsibility, informal leadership. I wasn't in a formal leadership position. But remember, leadership, you don't have to be in a formal role to lead, to be able to lead. So when I embarked on the development on this champions program, I realized I was the post-hero hero. I'm not saying we don't need that one person who is able to lead. In my situation, in my context, I had to be very adaptable. And I learned about myself that what I was trying to do was I was a transformational leader. So I covered the literature as well. I did some research on that. And transformational because I had a vision of what I wanted, how I wanted, and what I wanted colleagues across the institution to achieve. I thought about what success would look like, and I was very ambitious. I wanted everyone to get on board with this new digital tool. But at the same time, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do it on my own. And this is when I relied on the principles of distributed leadership. And this is a bottom up approach to lead. You create alliances with colleagues from across the organization, and together you lead. You can still be the leader plus, if you want to call it, and you have your colleagues supporting you and at the same time leading. So this is what the post-hero hero is to me. It's a combination of being a transformational leader and embedding as well distributed leadership. So in the reference list, you could probably consult the literature. So I was given the task, and I embarked on this, creating a vision for what I wanted to achieve. And of course, what do we know is very, very difficult. The challenges. So not only that, I realized that perhaps I had an added disadvantage. Already change is difficult, and upscaling digital capabilities in any organization can be quite challenging, especially in the context of academia, and especially in a Russell group. So the complexity of the challenge was very, very high. It was a very complex situation. And I guess I see it as a disadvantage. The literature on leadership, uh, people of color in academia have added challenges. You have, I had, as a woman, there was the racial element as well, and a third element of being an international member of staffs. And as we know, perhaps the sector is very, it can be very heterogeneous. So I had that added challenge. Change is already difficult. So at the moment I'm developing, and perhaps you want to have this as part of the discussion. My presentation is not about this, but I thought I should raise it because it definitely, I don't see leaders of color as many as I would like to. And I think it's key um, to raise the awareness that change is difficult, leadership is very difficult, but if you are a leader of color in a university, is triple difficult, I think. So you need another set of skills that perhaps you don't encounter as much in the traditional literature of leadership, because a lot of the models are based on the traditional male white leadership. Okay, so back to the model. So these are the principles behind the Champions program. The initiative is called Champions program, but the principles, I call it the Champions model. And I based the whole strategy on community of practice, with the elements of what a community of practice is made of, is community, domain, and practice. The domain was the teaching and learning with a new digital tool. Champions roles, and I made a democratic call across the university to enlist passionate, innovative, willing, and committed to the cause. So, and the third element is peer coaching. So peer coaching, I think it looks different in every context. I gave a lot of autonomy to the champions in this case, because it's for peer-to-peer learning. I was very aware of my limitations as a leader of a project. I was aware that my ability to influence perhaps will be limited. But if I relied on this vibrant collective of colleagues, 6 champions, what was what I recruited for this program, willingly, voluntarily, they participated. Perhaps I was going to be able to achieve and attain that vision of that I had for this digital tool. Okay, so this is the roadmap, and you can, I don't know if you can see it, but it kicked off in 2019 in August, and this is when I started the activities. So broadly, I had 4 different types of activities embedded. Training and support, I think that was the key. I'm going to tell you in a minute why. I'll go back to this. Dissemination, teaching and learning events, and promotion. So I'll go back to the first one. Training and support was about focusing on this group of champions from the 3 faculties across the university. And I provided coaching, mentoring, tailored support, and specialized training. I adapted to them, and I knew that this investment of time, of resources in a group of 6 champions across faculties who were already influencers within their context. Perhaps I wasn't the influencer. I have to mention I was also new to the university. I trained them. I had the support of Microsoft as well. And I did webinars. I had guest speakers, people who were perhaps ahead in the journey across the sector in the adoption of this digital tool of Microsoft Teams. So that went through a period of several months, September, October, November, December. And I have to say at this point, it wasn't working out. That's the truth. And there are many factors, like I mentioned. I don't want to attribute it to to leadership, there are contextual factors. One of them, and the literature confirms this, that academic staff is reluctant to engage with technology. We know that. But there are, for example, the return of investment doesn't seem worthy, the time, the lack of support, competing technologies. And this last one was key because there was a rollout of a new VLE. So logically, you don't want to invest. I understand it's a research oriented university. You don't have time to invest in two different technologies. So I continued the support in different ways. So and then the pandemic came, but I'll go back to this in a minute because I want to explain you the dissemination, what it means, just to give you a general idea. The next type of activities, I did a lot of podcasts, video case studies. Each of the champions had the chance to do a video case study. This was part of being a champion. It was a requirement of them to graduate, if you want to call it, from the program. A video case study in which we would embed the curriculum 2021 is the framework of the University of Liverpool. Curriculum 2021, and we had students taking part in these video case studies, giving testimony of how their learning changed as a result of the adoption of a new digital tool. And in the resource I'm going to share with you, you can have a look at the outcome, these video case studies. Teaching and learning events. There were face-to-face when still was possible. I would organize events across the university. I would bring the champions, and this is where the peer coaching will come into play. And the feedback was fantastic when from colleagues who would attend the sessions face-to-face. And the feedback was mostly about, it is great to have a champion who can sit with me and can show me what he or she has been doing, and just kind of coach me on the spot, because they know the pedagogical practices of my area. I can trust their advice because they know the context. So this was a great feedback that I got. And finally, promotion. I did a lot as the lead of the program to give them recognition, show the contribution they were making institutionally. And of course, there was an element of accountability as well in it. But mostly, part of my professional values is to give recognition to people for their contributions. And contribution itself is one of my values. So I put a lot of my professional values in the development of this Champions program. Okay, so let's go back to the story. So training support, it was really difficult. But then the pandemic hit, and this is when the community of practice, which is called the Champions Community, exploded. You can see in March, it really took off. And at the moment, there are 300 plus members of the community, and the support we provided in that community was key. The work of the champions during the emergency period, when we transitioned to online teaching, the whole university went mostly, I don't have evidence to say all of them, but a large number of people, academics, made use of Microsoft Teams. The support was there. So all the work that we have been doing for several months that was the right timing. It's like you cultivated something and you think it's not going to grow, it's not going to work out, and suddenly it just explodes. Okay, so this is more or less the type of activity and the roadmap. You have access to the roadmap as well in the resource. Okay, so what has been the impact so far? And I have to be very honest at this point. I feel, so one of the elements, the principles of a community of practice, is that you have to design for evolution, and you also have to be conscious that it will go through stages. It is a living entity. So I think it has accomplished its mission, and it's pretty much on the stage that you have to collect memorabilia or artifacts. So we have accomplished our mission. So 328 members, it has become a model of best practice in the institution. 1 national virtual community of practice, 5 international virtual communities of practice. I was hired as a consultant for a British Council project, and this champions model was replicated in Peru, is to help Peruvian academics, 6 universities, transition to online teaching. I won a learning and teaching and fellowship of work for the leadership of the champions model, and I got my senior fellowship because of it. So this is the resource I want to share with you. And I think time is up, but this is what it looks like, and it will be shared with you at the end. So it's just an open resource, and you will see, I'm just going to show you an explanation. And what I have presented today, hopefully you will be able to go more in detail, and you will find resources, literature, and more. It will give you an idea of how you can develop it and how you can apply it to your context. So I hope you find it really useful. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Perhaps when you walk away from this presentation, I invite you to think about your own context and think about the potential benefits and barriers you will face in your institution, because you will face barriers, and it might not work entirely as the model as it worked for me, but there are elements that you may want to adapt. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. And wow, it's fascinating, isn't it, how the timing worked for that one? I mean, such
Yes.
a different outcome to what you envisaged when you started with the 6 champions. I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about, because that's a huge number of champions now, obviously, and very different to what you'd ever envisaged. I'm interested in how that's working practically now, and a bit more about the role of the champions, actually.
Okay, so the champions, I made an open call in several announcements of the university, and 6 people got back to me.
Yeah.
Right. And I had a list of what the role means. I had to write a very inspirational call. And I think this is part of transformational leadership. You have to have that vision. So the champions are still champions, but like I said, I think the community has fulfilled its mission.
Yeah.
And they have moved on to better things and more exciting things. But I think having this group of allies is key. It's about the people. I always say it's about the people. It's not about the technology.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're able to see the comments, but there's been a couple about how much your talk has resonated with people, and comments back to the added challenge that you face as a person of color as well, which is just that extra.
It's true. It's real.
Yeah.
I got a lot of. Sorry, Matt. I mean, I would compare. I know that you shouldn't compare yourself. I would compare myself with my champions, which they're lovely, or compare a white male who's leading something similar in my institution, and he would be hurt. And if I turn up, so people tell me it's because of your grade. I don't know.
As in grade, sorry, your job
system,
grade.
the system of the university. I was questioned many times. Academics will kind of won't believe it that I had created such thing, and I was able to come with the theoretical underpinnings, and that I had an international impact, and they still question my impact. I can't do. All I can do is turn up and be my best self. I can't control what people say, and I wonder if I have observed other colleagues in these positions, and they don't get this kind of questioning of their worth or contribution. Well, maybe, I don't know. This has been my observation. I don't have data, and I have an autoethnography that I would like to do, but I am very I don't think I'm going to get ethical approval because I want to create an account of this leadership perspective of communities of practice from the perspective of people of color. But I don't know if anybody has experience of autoethnographies, and if it's easy to get the ethics approved. I'm curious about that, especially for such sensitive topic.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I'm sure if anybody has, they can reach
Yes.
out to you. There's a question come from the attendees on the screen, actually. Monica, I don't know if you'd like to respond to that one.
Well, what is critical for success of a champions model. I think the champions and getting that buy-in from colleagues who say, I believe in what you are trying to do. And yes, the students deserve better. We should create a dynamic ecosystem, not just a VLE to put all the stuff, the repository, in those innovators who perhaps are not top senior leadership, but is finding that people, your allies. That's key for the success, I would say.
Yeah, great, thank you. And then aside from Dave White in the comments as well, why should great be an okay reason? Of course, it shouldn't either. Any more than
I can't change the culture. It's across the sector, higher education. So just deal with it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking. I can't see any more questions as such. Just a moment. No, just lots of comments thanking you, Monica. So thank you, and many thanks for sharing and such an honest presentation as well. We always appreciate that from you.
Thank you.
And as Monica said, if anybody wants to follow up with that afterwards, she's be very happy for you to do that.
Yes.
So many thanks to everybody for attending this session, and we're back on with sessions in, I'm not sure actually, a few minutes time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.